Coming up on this Wednesday edition of Daybreak, ending weeks of political bickering, Korea's parliament approves next year's government budget ahead of the constitutional deadline for the first time in more than 10 years. North Korea once again says it cannot accept a UN resolution against it for human rights abuses and threatens to conduct another nuclear test. Plus, in what's been described as a high-value catch, Lebanon has detained a wife and young son of Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi near the border with Syria. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, December 3rd. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, Korea's rival parties have passed next year's $340 billion budget bill, meeting the constitutional deadline for the first time in 12 years. For more on the government's spending priorities for 2015, Park Ji-won reports.
It hasn't happened in 12 years, but on Tuesday, the National Assembly passed the next year's government budget bill before the deadline set by the Constitution. The passage is of great significance as Parliament was able to avoid the tiresome tug-of-war scenarios we've seen in the recent past. This year, the timeline was helped by new pressure under the revised National Assembly Act. If lawmakers didn't meet the deadline, the government's draft version of the budget bill would have passed automatically.
Among the 273 lawmakers present, 225 were in favor, 28 against, and 20 abstained. The 2015 budget bill is passed.
Here's what's inside the 2015 budget. The government has allocated $103 billion for welfare, $48 billion for education, $39 billion for R&D and social overhead capital, $34 billion for defense, $15 billion for safety, $4.1 billion for foreign affairs and unification, and the rest for other social costs. A large portion was allocated to welfare and education spending to better help the elderly and to provide free childcare programs for preschoolers. Next year's budget is 5.5% or $17.6 billion higher than this year's. Apart from the revised budget bill, the two parties also passed tax-related bills. They hiked the price of cigarettes by almost $2 a pack in a bid to reducing smoking rates and to make up for tax revenue shortfalls. And in a move to boost the domestic economy, Korean companies will be given tax breaks if they increase investments, wages, and dividend payments. Although the budget bill was passed, it's expected the two parties will open an extraordinary session after the current parliamentary session ends on December 9th to discuss thousands of pending bills that still await parliamentary approval. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, it was a busy but productive day for the National Assembly on Tuesday as lawmakers also ratified two free trade agreements with Australia and Canada. The Korea-Australia FTA has been awaiting parliamentary ratification for several weeks since the bill was submitted to the National Assembly back in mid-September. The passage should quell government and related industries' concerns that further delays to its ratification could damage exports. There were concerns Korean exporters could start losing ground to their Japanese rivals because the Japan-Australia FTA was approved by Japan's upper house of parliament early last month. The search for the 52 crewmen still missing after a Korean-operated trawler sank off Russia's far eastern coast will resume from first light on this Wednesday. Seoul's foreign ministry says 5 Russian fishing boats have been scouring waters looking for the crew of the Arirang 501, but only found 4 empty lifeboats on Tuesday. The US Coast Guard also flew over the area, but high tides and strong winds have hampered rescue efforts on the sea level. Only 7 people were rescued shortly after the boat went down. 1 Korean crew member has been confirmed dead. The crew included 35 Indonesians, 13 Filipinos, 11 Koreans and 1 Russian. North Korea's ambassador to the UN has written to UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon telling him Pyongyang cannot accept the adoption of the human rights resolution against it. In a letter, the North requested be circulated to all member nations. Ja Song-nam said the European Union and Japan, who introduced the draft resolution, as well as the United States, had chosen a path of confrontation against the North. The letter goes on to say that North Korea will continue on its own way and strengthen its war deterrence capacity. Now, it also warned that Washington's hostility against it means North Korea might be left with no option but to conduct another nuclear test. President Park Geun-hye, who launched a committee earlier this year to better prepare for the costly process of unifying the two Koreas, has been checking up on the progress made so far. Meeting with the committee on Tuesday, she said more needed to be done to improve the human rights situation up there in the north. Choi Yu-sun reports.
President Park Geun-hye says North Korea's human rights situation must improve for the future of a unified Korea. Meeting with a Unification Preparatory Committee for the 3rd time since it launched this year, President Park emphasized how important it was for the North Korean people to maintain their physical and mental health in achieving a happy and successful unification of the two Koreas. While Pyongyang's repeated provocations and nuclear ambitions have kept the two sides from renewing dialogue, Seoul has made attempts to improve ties through non-political cooperation and launched a committee to better prepare for unification. Referring to the upcoming 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule and the division of the two Koreas, President Park said it's an important time to move toward developing inter-Korean ties and bringing out meaningful change from North Korea. She then asked the committee members to appeal to South Koreans and the international community about the urgent need to unite the two Koreas. The committee, for its part, said it will hold a hearing early next year to establish a charter on unification. It then laid out plans for the coming year, from developing a manual on a unified Korea's economic system to encouraging the North to participate in President Park's peace initiative in Northeast Asia. Comparing unification preparation to Koreans' use of various ingredients and paste to spice up dishes, President Park urged participants at Tuesday's meeting to approach unification with patience, as it can only be achieved successfully when all the hearts and minds of Koreans come together. Choi Yu-sun, 아리랑뉴스.
The holiday season is fast approaching, but plans to erect a huge Christmas tree near the inter-Korean border is likely to make North Korea feel less than festive. South Korea's defense ministry has approved plans by a local religious group to put up a 9-meter-tall tree at Egibong in Gimpo, west of Seoul. The tower of which this Christmas tree is built around has long been subject to threats by North Korea over the Christmas season. North Korea sees it as a propaganda tool as the tree lights are visible from the north. North Korea is being very coy about whether it was behind a cyber attack that leaked 5 Sony Pictures films onto torrent sites for illegal download. There's speculation North Korean hackers could have done it in retaliation for a forthcoming Sony film that pokes a lot of fun at North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Shin Se-min reports.
Security breached. 5 movies produced by Sony Pictures have been leaked online after the company's computer system was hacked in late November. It's estimated to have cost Sony Pictures tens of millions of dollars in financial damages. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has notified U.S. businesses to beware of new destructive malware and cyber attacks. In a confidential flash, an FBI warning issued Monday provides details on the malicious software and called on businesses to protect their information systems and limit access to their databases. The report says the malicious software overwrites all data on computer hard drives. The FBI spokesman, however, declined to comment on whether this flash software was used in the cyber attack on Sony. Employees of Sony Pictures found themselves logged out of their computers last week. They turned them on to find the phrase, "hacked by GOP," or the Guardians of Peace, which has claimed responsibility for the attack. Sony said the theft of content was considered a criminal matter and that they're working to address the issue. There's speculation that the attack could be linked to North Korea, as Sony Pictures produced The Interview, an upcoming comedy film that centers around a CIA plot to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The North has so far refused to deny involvement in the attack. Shin Jae-min, 아리랑뉴스.
Korea is calling on Japan to fully apologize and atone for its wartime sexual enslavement of women before demanding the removal of statues remembering the female victims. Seoul's foreign ministry says Japan should try to settle the issue in a way that's acceptable to the Korean people and also the international community. It added that statues were put up by civilians, so the government couldn't have them removed anyway. The remarks come after reports emerged that Japan requested the removal of a statue in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul and another one in Glendale, California, during high-level talks between the two countries last week. The ministry didn't confirm if Tokyo actually did make that request. Time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this Wednesday morning. Here in Seoul, for that we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Lebanese security forces say they have detained a wife and child of Islamic State group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. She had been identified as Iraqi Saja al-Dulaimi, who CNN describes as a powerful figure within the extremist group, citing a source with knowledge of the arrest. A DNA test is being conducted to confirm that the child is in fact Baghdadi. Lebanese officials said the two were picked up some 10 days ago when they tried to enter Lebanon from Syria with forged papers and are currently being held for questioning. A local newspaper said their detainment came in coordination with, quote, foreign intelligence services. Dulaimi was one of 150 women released as part of a March prisoner swap with al-Qaeda-linked militants in Syria. Little is known about the private life of Baghdadi, an Iraqi declared the caliph by his Islamic State followers earlier this year. Reports say he is believed to have 2 or 3 wives. A horrific aftermath of an al-Shabaab attack in Kenya. 36 bodies were found in a quarry in a village near the Somali border on Tuesday. A spokesman for the jihadist militant group said it had separated non-Muslim workers from the Muslims in what it called retaliation for the Kenyan government's raid on a mosque last month. Kenya has been fighting the Somalia-based al-Shabaab militants since 2011. Following this latest attack, Kenya's national police chief resigned, and the country's president, Uhuru Kenyatta, said the strike constituted a, quote, war and a war we must win. Lawmakers in France's lower house of parliament have moved to recognize the statehood of Palestine. The symbolic vote was meant to raise pressure at home for the French government to be more proactive on the issue. The vote will likely anger Israel, which has seen similar resolutions passed by lawmakers in Britain, Spain, and Sweden in recent months. The co-founders of Occupy Central are expected to surrender to police today as student leader Joshua Wong has started a hunger strike with his peers to pressure the Hong Kong government for more talks. Benny Tai, Chan Kin-man, and Chu Yu-ming, who had led the pro-democracy movement in the earlier days, urged protesters to retreat for the sake of their safety and the original intention of love and peace. Occupy Central said it will continue their fight for democracy in Hong Kong through public debates and community education, as the three leaders encouraged protesters to also put down deep roots in the community and extend the spirit of the umbrella movement.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now back here in Korea, and 7 out of 10 Koreans are expected to be part of the nation's labour force by the year 2023. The Labour Ministry said on Tuesday that compared to numbers from 2013, the employment rate will jump by about 7 percentage points. The spike in the employment rates of women and the elderly are said to be the main driving forces behind the overall increase in work participation. Analysts predict the local economy will also shift from one that lacks jobs to one that lacks a proper workforce, mainly due to the country's fast-aging society and very low birth rates. Now, the recent long-term fall in oil prices is giving Korea's airline industry a much-needed boost. The significant increase in the number of Koreans ordering goods from overseas is also helping the nation's main carriers, Korean Air and Asiana Airlines, bring in some extra funds after a slow start to the year. Kim Min-ji reports.
Tumbling oil prices and the rise of direct purchasing from overseas could give Korea's struggling airline industry the shot in the arm it needs. The decline in crude prices has led to an overall reduction in costs for airlines, which means they're able to entice customers with cheaper fares and cut rates for cargo deliveries. Korean Air, the nation's #1 carrier, says it has saved nearly $120 million this year thanks to the drop in oil prices. Jet fuel on the Singapore market was selling at $126 a barrel early this year, but its value had plunged by around a third to $87 as of the end of November. Korea's low-cost carriers have also been benefiting as fuel expenses account for 45% of their overall operating costs. Falling oil prices also means lower fuel surcharges, which in turn means more passengers and more cargo. According to Korea's Transport Ministry, nearly 7.5 million passengers took flights in, out, and around Korea in October. That's more than 15% higher than the same month last year. Cargo volume also jumped 5% over the same period. And with increased shipments due to the shopping holiday known as Black Friday, Korean Air has deployed an additional 26 cargo planes. However, industry watchers warn that oil prices and exchange rates can quickly turn on their head, especially given the ongoing uncertainties in some advanced economies. Kim Min-ji, Arirang.
Now, robots are picking up the slack in the online shopping world by cutting the time it takes to get a product from the warehouse to the customer. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Black Friday may get all the headlines as the busiest shopping day of the year, but Cyber Monday has become a force in its own right over the past few years. The day, invented to encourage online shopping, has grown alongside the online shopping trend, with sales this year reaching an all-time high, up 8.7%, compared to last year, according to IBM Digital Analytics benchmark. The increased demand for online shopping, not just on Cyber Monday, but all year round, is prompting companies to find new ways to expedite the shipping process. Amazon is setting the standard by taking advantage of robot technology. Scores of box-shaped robots move freely across the warehouse. They scan barcodes on the floor and take orders wirelessly from central computers. Once an order is received, the robots find the item and bring it to a warehouse employee. These are the robots Amazon is using in its shipping centers to reduce shipping times and enhance efficiency. Over 15,000 robots are working in 10 of Amazon's shipment centers across the U.S., whereas it used to take Amazon an average of an hour and a half to get a package out the door. The robots have cut the time to as little as 13 minutes. These orange 145-kilogram robots were developed by Kiva Systems, a robotic company that Amazon bought out in 2012 for $775 million.
The automation approach we take is all about using automation to improve and to help the associates do their job. It's not replacing associates doing their job.
Competitors like Google are also jumping on the bandwagon, developing new drone technologies that they expect will be able to cut delivery times drastically in the very near future. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Cafe, where it was announced on Tuesday that a technical conference will be held on Thursday to review the past year. And for the first time, national team head coach Uli Stilicke is set to make a presentation. Well, he'll talk about how to go about improving Korean football and also present the current status of the team going into the Asian Cup in Australia. In a conference which will take place for 2 days, Olympic team head coach Lee Kwang-jung is also set for a presentation to discuss the success of the Asian Games team and his plans leading up to the 2016 Rio Summer Games. You know, they say winning an award at the KBO Award ceremony is special, but many players would agree that the Players' Choice Award is even more special since it's voted by your peers. And on Tuesday, Nexon Heroes second baseman Seok Chang received his second MVP honor of the year. Now, after being named the 2014 KBO MVP, his peers voted him the Player of the Year during the 2014 KBO Players' Choice Awards, giving him his second MVP honors this year. This comes after setting a new KBO record in hits with a total of 201 hits. Meanwhile, NC Dino's Park Min-woo received his second Rookie of the Year honors, this time voted on by his peers. And staying in baseball and on to the ongoing contract talks between the San Diego Padres and Kim Kwang-hyun, who was recently posted for $2 million by the Major League team. In hopes of getting a contract, the lefty left to San Diego on Tuesday. Unlike LA Dodgers lefty Ryu Hyun-jin, who stayed in Korea throughout his contract talks with the Dodgers, Kim Kwang-hyun decided to speed up the contract negotiations by heading over to San Diego himself. And while there aren't any reports on how close the two sides are, many believe that he should be able to sign a major league deal within a week. And finishing things off, former NBA bad boy Dennis Rodman has visited North Korea before, and he's becoming quite a buddy with the North's young leader Kim Jong-un. Now, apparently Kim Jong-un would love to see Lionel Messi visit North Korea this time. According to Han Eung-kyung, a North Korean committee member of the AFC, Kim Jong-un is a big fan of Lionel Messi and would love to see him make a visit to North Korea. Han added that many kids look up to the Argentinian star and dream of becoming a football star like Lionel Messi. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Now, you might need to leave early home today. We are waking up to snowy and icy roads this morning in many parts, including here in Seoul and the surrounding areas. 1.7 centimeters of snow fell overnight in Seoul, and there has been a snow removal work overnight out on the major roads, but alleys and some of the sidewalks, snow piled up, so pedestrians and drivers should be extra cautious this morning. Now, cold wave advisory had been lifted for the capital area, but heavy snow advisory remains in place for the western parts of the peninsula, and it's still snowing in that regions. But elsewhere, can expect to see skies clearing up, but due to the freezing temperatures, snow and ice on the roads could be remained. And afternoon highs here in the Seoul will only hike up to 0, while Daegu and Gwangju peak at 6 and 5, and Busan will hike up to 9 this afternoon. Now, as for the other regions, Jeju Island will be getting up to 10, while Daejeon and Dokdo see highs of 2 and 5 respectively. Now, brace yourself for freezing weather and slick roads, and that's all for Korea. And here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. Just echoing what Jion said during the weather. If you're watching us in Korea, be careful outside. It is very slippery and icy. And I'm sure they'll be talking about it more on Korea Today, which is coming up at 7 a.m. in about half an hour's time. Do have a great and safe day. Goodbye.